Welcome, everybody, to the NBA show on the Gruely Truth Sports Network. As always, the Gruely Truth is powered by betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding the online casino or sportsbook that's right for you. Make sure you check them out at betting.net. I also want to remind you that you can go on the link in the description of the video down below if you're watching on YouTube to get our top-rated sportsbook for betting on Game 5 of the NBA Finals between the Warriors and the Celtics at Caesars Sportsbook. I am your co-host for the NBA show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I want to welcome in my co-host. First up, we've got 1981 national champion from the Indiana Hoosiers, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Doing great today, Mike. Good to be talking with you guys again.
All right. And next up, we've got Dan Kornhauser, who was the sixth man of the year back in 1996 for the third grade Boston Stranglers. How you doing, Dan?
It's a beautiful day. Hashtag Sunday Fun Day. Let's do it.
All right, that was a little stupid. But next up, speaking of a little stupid, I'm kidding. That would have been Dan. Bobby Hunt. How you doing, Bobby?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on. I'm doing well. Hope to have a good podcast now. Let's do it.
All right, we're going to review Game 4. We're going to preview Game 5. And then we're going to throw a question for everybody. Is Steph Curry the greatest point guard in NBA history? No answers right now. The young ones will probably say yes, but I might too after what I've seen so far. And we're sitting at 2 games all, headed to Game 5, Steve. And Game 5 is usually the tipping point. I believe that most NBA Finals are won at 2-2 by the team that wins Game 5. The Warriors have 2 of the next 3 at home. What do you think of the series so far, Steve?
I think it's lived up to much more than anybody could have thought of. I mean, it's been 4 dog-eat-dog games. I mean, every one has been just a bitch of a contest to play, and these guys are playing hard. This is when the NBA is fun to watch because these guys are going at each other, and they're leaving it all on the court. I think this is a situation right now where we've gotten into, having not watched a lot of NBA throughout the course of the year, then start watching all the playoffs. I think Boston is the better team right now. I tell you that with all sincerity. I think top to bottom, teams playing together in sync, getting maximum production out of the 7 or 8 men in their rotation. I think Boston has an upper edge here. They've also got a great coach.
Well, I think we know this. I think both teams have great coaches. Both teams are really good. I was going
to get there, Mike, if you didn't interrupt.
I know, okay. But I didn't want this to go on for 10 minutes. Go ahead.
Well, it's not going to.
Okay.
All right. Can I finish and then I'll be done?
Actually, I'm not saying a word, Steve. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, I didn't want to step on your toes because you always make great points, and I acknowledge your great points.
Quit kissing my ass and just talk.
Okay. I think Boston's a better team, but I think right now Steph Curry is by far the best player in this game. What it comes down to in Game 5, in my opinion, is can Boston withstand a Curry onslaught again, and can Curry deliver another onslaught? I mean, they have no ability to shut Curry down. They tried like heck to guard that kid, and they just have nothing for him. So it's going to boil down to that. Right now, Curry's shooting 49% from three-point range. The sad part is he's only taking 12.9 three-point shots a game. He's making almost 7 of them. He's got to up his number of shots taken here. I think it gets really serious from this point forward, Mike, and I think Boston has the upper edge right now. They play well on the road.
Well, we've got a comment from our buddy Sefton who says, thanks for something to do this evening. I was about to go to bed. So you're welcome, Sefton. We give Sefton either something to do and keep him awake, or we will put him to sleep. Trevor Davidson says, okay. I don't know what that's about. But this is my thing. Steph Curry, even if he goes off, Boston could win because they've done it. Steph has went off in basically all 4 games pretty much, at least for part of the games. My question is this, Dan. I think that this series is going to come down to whether Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum can ever both get hot at the same time, because it looks like they take turns, and there's never a point where they both take over the game, because I think if both of them were to just go off, take over the game at the same time, Golden State would not have a defensive answer for them.
I mean, you're not necessarily wrong. We've seen this Boston Celtics team go off when both of these guys are on, but I think the bigger key is Tatum. If he's doing what he did in Game 4, where I think he only had 1 point or something like that in the whole fourth quarter of Game 4, and he played the whole quarter. He didn't sit down. So when you have your best player on the court, you kind of expect him to do a little better than that. And he had more turnovers and personal fouls combined in Game 4 than he did baskets made. That's unacceptable. We can say whatever we want about Jaylen Brown. He's a great young two-way wing player, and he's stepped up in these playoffs when needed. But you're right. They when they're not on the same page, it's not pretty. But Tatum needs to be better in the fourth.
Yeah, and Sefton makes a comment that one man will win a game here or there, but Steph Curry alone can't win a championship. But I think what we've seen from Steph, Bobby, is one of the best performances we've seen by a point guard in an NBA Finals. He's played outstanding, and I think the guy that really made the difference in Game 4, Steph was great, but Andrew Wiggins, 17 points, 16 rebounds. If Andrew Wiggins is getting double-digit rebounds, the Warriors are going to win.
The Warriors are doing what they need to do. They're staying in the series. I think they're going to win out eventually. Now, I think it'll wind up being 7 games instead of the 6 that I picked, but that's the way it goes. What can you do? Right now, Steph Curry's on another planet. No one can guard him. It doesn't matter whether they put Smart on him. Sometimes they have Tatum on him. Honestly, I think that's the best idea in terms of if you want to stop him at all, but someone else will probably contribute. That is the concern right now. Steph Curry's having to carry too much of a load. But guys are there. Game 6, Clay is looming. Seems like every Game 6, he goes in, he steps up. He did it a couple series ago. He can get hot at any point. And then you mentioned Wiggins, who was key in that last game. You mentioned how many rebounds he had. He set a career high for himself, postseason and regular season, with 16 boards. Wiggins is helping out. But the Celtics are a tough team. This is a drag-them-out series. It's going to go to 7, and it's just a matter of who steps up. It's a best of 3 at this point.
Yeah,
Mike, I thought that I thought you started to see a reemergence of Klay Thompson. Anybody else want to comment on that? I think his points are I know he's scoring okay, but his points becoming more influential in this game. He seems to be getting himself a lot more involved in this game.
Yeah, and he needs to for them to win this series. Right. Draymond's been terrible for the most part. Game 2, he was really good. But other than that, yeah, there's guys that need to step up. But what's funny about this series, too, is that, well, first I'll start with Clay. But with Clay, he didn't shoot well in Games 1 and 2 at all. He was a non-factor. Even though they won Game 2, he wasn't a big factor. He had a poor shooting night. But the last 2 games, he really stepped up on the road. Now he needs to do it back home, which you figured he would be able to do. But what I find interesting also about this series is, even though each game has been close in certain points or come down to the wire, each team has won by double digits in the games they've won. So just odd, something that you don't usually see. This has been a fun, good series, but the end results are 10 points or more in each game so far.
Yeah, and Dan, another guy that I think gets missed here is Kevon Looney, who played 28 minutes. He was 3 for 4 shooting, but he added 11 rebounds. So when you've got Looney, I mean, if Looney plays well, Klay Thompson I think and Andrew Wiggins plays well, the Celtics should win the series. My only thing is this: when I look at them, with Looney especially and Wiggins, we have not seen the consistency to actually think that for the next 2 or 3 games, they're both going to play like that every game.
Well, with Looney, he's in a good spot because he's on a team where he doesn't have to do much. Clay is doing his thing. Curry's doing his thing. Andrew Wiggins has been going in. Hell, Poole is out there as a good 4th option. And Looney is just out there. He went 3 for 4 in the last game. He's playing well in the time he's on the court. But he's in a great spot. Just don't screw up. And he's been useful. So if he can do what he's been doing this series and make those random shots he gets under the basket. He made 3 last game, went 3 for 4, and help control the boards. That'll be huge because they need him when the Celtics go big. Now that I say that, with the Celtics going big, I don't even think that's their best course of action moving forward, to be completely honest. I think they have to try to match Golden State's small ball lineups. Kevon Looney out there, it doesn't matter who's out there, but I think they need to put Derek White on the court more. less of Williams and Horford together, less of the other Williams out there, and try to run with these boys. I think they can do it. And when they go small, they're better than when they go big. I mean, just looking at their bigs in the last game, I think Horford and what's his name? Horford and Robert Williams combined. Robert Williams, Horford, and Grant Williams. Grant Williams, yeah. These guys are combined minus 15 last game. Just gross. You can't have that.
Yeah, you don't want to be gross. All right, from Sefton, he has a comment. I'm going to direct it towards Bobby. Has anyone noticed this trend with Scott Foster? I know they have because I've seen multiple articles written about it. But 13 times he's officiated in the playoffs for the Boston Celtics. 13 times the Celtics won. And I just saying, Sefton's saying basically that doesn't look good for him and the league, Bobby.
It doesn't. It's ugly. I mean, come on. In all these games that are getting scrutinized so heavily, it's the NBA Finals. But Scott Foster's a name that's frequently come up as someone that's a little sketchy, that makes some terrible calls. I'm not surprised at all that that's the case. It doesn't look good for the league, but to the extent that they'll even investigate it, probably unlikely that they'll even go that far. It's going to have to be some kind of someone out there, if it is happening, if it is shady, in fact, that's going to have, need someone to come to the forefront and say, oh, Scott Foster's throwing games, he's shaving points, whatever it might be. I just doubt it.
Is he doing Game 5?
I don't know.
I'll have to check, but
well, it wouldn't be the first time an NBA official was found guilty of fixing games. So, anything's possible, I guess.
Well,
they have the whole series though at this point.
Well, I mean, you're talking about Tim Donaghy, which I think he might even still be in jail for that. So, all right, what'd you say, Bobby? I didn't hear what you said that last comment.
Yeah, how would they have? It doesn't make sense. Like, if they've won 2 games already in this series, I would think they had the same crew the whole series. Like, why would they be changing crew game to game?
Well, usually you have an alternate official and they rotate him in. At least that's the way it used to be. Is that correct, Dan?
Yeah, it's a 16-person crew and 6 alternatives.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Bob's onto something. Foster might have been the ref for all of these games or something. I'm not seeing anything really concrete on that front. I'm just seeing the list of referees, the list of the backups.
Yeah, but let me ask you this, because I know people will bring this up and say Scott Foster's done all the games that the Celtics have won. But are there calls by Scott Foster for any of the 3 of you? Have you seen calls by Scott Foster that you think are questionable?
I'm sure I have, but not that I've been paying enough attention.
Yeah.
I can pinpoint this exact point in the game, but I know there's plenty of times on both sides where I'm raising an eyebrow and wondering what the hell was that call? What's going on in this game? Dan, What about you? I mean, it sounds like
yeah, I haven't really. This isn't one of those series where you can say, "Oh, the refs are screwing it up. The refs are not doing their job." Like, I feel like in the NFL, for example, you could say that every single week, and in some situations about the same team on back-to-back weeks. We could just ask our buddy Greg for that as a Tennessee Titans fan. He complains about it every single week. Every single game, even if they're winning by 40 points, he'll be like, "Oh, the refs are trying to screw us. The refs are throwing the game." So, it's not necessarily the NFL, which is a good thing. So we're not talking about the refs, who shouldn't be. But there's been a few instances where they call a foul, and it's like, what are you calling? Is that just a gimme for something you called earlier? It's ugly. But luckily, for me personally, I'm not noticing them swinging the game one way or the other.
Good,
Mike, I saw it caught my eye. I saw a lot of calls in the first 4 games that I'm not used to seeing in an NBA game. But then I was thinking, man, there's some bad refereeing going on here. And now that listening to everybody talk about it here and really starting to dig in and give it what my perception of it is this could be a case of where they're just letting the guys play. I mean, there is no LeBron James out there who's whining and crying like crazy. I mean, Curry started to get animated about it toward the end of Game 4. And there were some bad calls they missed on Curry when he was shooting threes, and they were just knocking him to the ground. But I think overall, I think, the way Draymond Green is playing, the way Horford's playing, there's some, the way Smart is playing. There's some physical basketball out there, which you don't see a lot of that in the NBA without fouls being called immediately to protect superstars and things of that nature. We're not seeing it. So is it just a case of we're seeing something so unusual that we generally don't see in the NBA that we're saying, boy, somebody's fixing this?
I would say this.
We're just letting them play.
Hey, all you have to do is punch in a Google search of Scott Foster controversy. And what comes up then is Tim Donaghy, who claimed that multiple other referees were fixing games just like he was. It was brushed off, of course, as him just being upset that he lost his career and ended up in jail. But one of the referees that Tim Donaghy warned the NBA about was Scott Foster. The thing that was interesting is, in the court trial, the records show that Donaghy placed 134 calls to referee Scott Foster between October 2006 and April 2007, which was when he was busted. He was busted and confessed to either betting on games or passing on game information to bettors. Now, this is the thing. He made 134 calls to Scott Foster. He only made 126 calls to his bookie. So I would say when you look at that, I mean, that's fairly damning evidence, Steve.
Yeah, but I think this and that, Mike. Yeah, it is very questionable why he would make it. But first, I have two things. One is I firmly believe in this country, you're innocent until proven guilty. It's right in the Constitution. Along with you have the right to bear arms.
We're not trying him. Okay. We're not trying him to go to jail.
Okay, we're not trying him for anything. If they had that much evidence, they would have brought it to him right now.
No,
they would have. They would have called it on it.
I still say
to this day. Hang on. I still say to this day, OJ is innocent because they did not find him guilty, so he is innocent by whatever standards you want to measure it by. Now let's go back to this. I think what happened with Scott was the NBA looked at this and they looked at Donnie and they go, we don't want this to turn into a fucking how many referees are cheating in the NBA. That's going to ruin our league. So they just cut it off after Donnie. They just said, stop investigating, shut it down. We put one in jail. We got one. Leave it alone.
That's kind of my point.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's my point. I mean, they're going to shut that down. If all of a sudden 7 or 8 NBA referees are busted, the ratings would be even worse on the NBA than they are right now.
Nobody'd watch it.
Yeah, because then it's the WWE, and without a bunch of fat guys, jumping off the scorer's table and smacking Steph Curry, nobody's going to watch it. So I think when you look at the history of Scott Foster since he joined the NBA in 1994-95, there's a lot of questions here. And the one thing I do notice by looking through this, the series he's done, he has been in a lot of series where it was, 3-0 or 3-1. And the majority of those series somehow go 6 and 7 games.
And you know what? Actually, random fact. I was just reading up on this here. Aside from Scott Foster, maybe referees just like Boston, because Eric Lewis, who was one of the referees for Game 4, Boston is 15-1 in games officiated by Lewis dating back to 2020, according to NBA ref stats. So maybe refs just like Boston.
Well, I think refs like to keep the NBA offices happy, and 6 and 7 game series do that, Bobby.
They absolutely do.
They sell advertising.
No, it's totally shady. I definitely believe in some of those conspiracy theories, especially when you mention something like Tim Donaghy calling him, 130 plus times. That's insane. Definitely makes him look bad.
That should have made the NBA investigate that. There's a major issue when the NBA doesn't investigate that.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what, I want to go to Caesars Sportsbook and bet the games, which you can click on the link in the description below the YouTube video. And I want to do it knowing that the game is on the up and up. But I also know this, when I bet games now, I sure as hell know who the referees are and what their history are with those teams. That's one of the biggest things to betting on any sport right now.
100% is. And the NFL is shady too. They swipe things under the rug and don't care about things. We look at organizations too, with the Cleveland Browns. Oh, with Deshaun Watson, they're just like, oh yeah, he's fine, no worry, and just more allegations coming out. So the NBA definitely falls under that too. Definitely a shady organization. Maybe not as corrupt as some like say FIFA or the NCAA, but still.
But nobody cares about FIFA. Go ahead.
Well, that's true. Not in America, not in the U.S. at least. So that's
all right, guys. Real quick, head over now and see for yourself. Betting.net makes it easy to find all the legal online sports books and casinos in your state. Make sure you check them out at betting.net. All right, guys, let's go ahead and let's look forward to tomorrow night where we've got Game 5. Game 5 usually decides these series. It's a huge game. Boston's been good on the road. Golden State was great at home until they had to play Boston at home. When we look at this game, to me, the key is going to be the rebounding. And I think Andrew Wiggins, because really, I think Boston is a superior team, Steve. But if Andrew Wiggins is playing well, I think all of a sudden this becomes even. And if it's even though Boston's a really good road team, I'm going to go with the team at home. That's if Wiggins plays well. But Wiggins has been a streaky guy all year long, and you never know what you're going to get.
Exactly. Wiggins definitely becomes a big key to this, like you said, Mike, for the same reasons that you said. If he plays well and plays and gets his 11, 12, 13 rebounds, then I think he begins to negate Boston's advantage of being able to play big and go at it and just kind of overpower and pummel Golden State. But if he doesn't, and by him doing that, he forces Boston to go back to playing small and matching up. So he takes the game out of Boston's hands with Wiggins is playing good and playing hot. Frees Curry up a little bit because all of a sudden now you got to guard him. I think the other key is getting something out of Draymond Green. He's got to step up and put some points on the board.
Yeah, but his biggest problem is you can't depend on him because basically he is just a punk ass bitch.
He's a mess right now. I mean, he's a
punk ass bitch. I mean, that's all he is. He talks about playing in the 1980s. Rick Mahorn would have beat him to within an inch of his life before the referees broke him up because he is just a bitch. I mean, the biggest thing that blew me away was Game 3 when the Boston Celtic crowd is yelling, fuck Draymond Green. And his wife tweets out that I was sitting there with his little kid, or his son, and they have to hear him talk about his dad that way. He never hears those words. And then in a post-game press conference, his son's sitting right next to him. And the first thing out of Draymond Green's mouth was shit. So I guess that doesn't qualify as a cuss word. And I'm sorry, I watched the Celtics and the Lakers in the 80s and the Celtics and the Sixers. And I remember the Celtics and Sixers, I think it was Game 7 of 82, where the Boston fans, a lot of them had sheets over their heads. Now, it wasn't racist, at least that's what they said. They were just saying that it was the leprechauns and the ghost of Celtics past. But I mean, Boston Celtics fans were a lot worse 40 years ago. It's just a bunch of drunken, Boston people screaming, fuck Draymond Green, should not even be a big deal, I don't think.
Mike, I shudder to think what Reggie Miller would do to Draymond Green.
Fight-wise, maybe not much, but Reggie will drop 100 on him.
Mouth-wise, Draymond Green.
Oh, do you imagine the way Larry Bird would abuse Draymond Green?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And Bird could beat him in a fight, too.
So. Oh, yeah. Bird would beat his ass, too, drink a Budweiser while he's doing it. So, Draymond Green is a punk-ass bitch. And
I know,
if
but
they
they've got to get production
out
of him. For as many minutes as they're giving him, they've got to get more production out of him.
Or give him less minutes.
Or give him less minutes. And give Wiggins and Looney more minutes is what you got to do. And play those guys more and get Green up. But the thing about it is, I'm kind of admiring Green's passion. He's out there playing hard.
Oh, shit. I don't care how hard you play. You're a professional. Okay. If you can't be productive, take your ass home. And this is the thing.
Agreed.
It always drove me nuts when people say, well, he tries so hard. Well, fuck. The only thing guaranteed is your effort. If you can't give your effort, your ass shouldn't be on the team anyways. It's just like when my sons played a sport, if they lost and they gave great effort, I never said, hey, way to try really hard. And they would never ask me that. Because my response to them is, you're supposed to. I mean, that's the one given, the one thing you control. You can't control how great you play. You may be on with your shot and the damn thing's rimming out. But your ass can control how hard you play. Draymond Green to me is a me guy. He's a dude running around screaming. He doesn't play with passion or heart. He plays like a bitch. I mean, he basically is just screaming all the time, look at me, I need attention. And I mean, that happens when you're that damn ugly too. Go ahead.
I was going to say for two things on Draymond. One, I was actually really glad to see Steve Kerr sit Draymond's ass on the bench where he belonged when he was playing as crappy as he was playing, because you can't have more fouls than you do points in a final series and expect to be out there. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter what your role on the team is. Short of someone like Curry or Tatum or a bona fide number one stud, those guys, Curry could go 0 for 10 to start the game. You're going to just ride that out. It doesn't matter. Okay, but Draymond, what was the stat I think I saw? It was like 17 fouls and he's got 16 points or something like that in the series.
That's a double-double. What are you bitching about, Dan?
Twitter has been going in on Draymond for the last few days. But
yeah, because he's a punk-ass bitch, and everybody loves it when a punk-ass bitch fails, which they always do.
The good thing about that, though, is if he's going to keep shit in the bed the way he is, and he's just not going to be a factor really at all on either side of the ball, it's great that Kerr sat him, and Kerr, like you said, should sit him more, because too often we'll see these coaches get too cute, maybe in a way, and they'll keep a guy like Dre out there because they'll probably say, oh, he's the glue guy, or he's one of our better defenders, and blah, blah, blah. He's so important to our schemes, whatever. But if it ain't working, it ain't working. And it has not been working.
All right, real quick, I guess this is L's. We will get to the question or your comment about Steph Curry when we get to the last part of the show. But right now he says, I agree with the notion on Green. He's so overrated, and I'm tired of the Hall of Fame talk regarding him at times. He has more fouls than points in this season. Sefton says Draymond Green seems more into the podcasting business over playing basketball at this part of his career. So everybody agrees he's a punk-ass bitch. All right, so Game 5, give me your predictions. This is not who wins the series, just Game 5. Bobby, who do you like?
Well, Dan, first I have to touch on all that coach speak. You had me ready to run through a wall over here, on your spiel. That was great, Mike.
That's not a spiel. Everybody who's ever played for me has heard it.
Yeah,
I never pat little Johnny on the ass and say, good try, Johnny.
You're right, but I was having flashbacks out there, and I'm sure Dan's experienced this many times on these podcasts. That's all I'm saying. It's not a bad thing.
Hey, and you know what? Since you brought that up, I want to bring up this. Head over now and see for yourself. Betting.net makes it easy to find all the online, I almost said illegal, online casinos or sportsbooks in your state. Check them out at betting.net. Go ahead, Bobby.
So as far as Game 5 and a prediction, it's been a really close, tight series. These teams are really close in like damn near every metric. I think the only differences are the Warriors have more steals per game. The Celtics, a few more blocks, makes sense. They're the taller team, the bigger team. Game 5, I'm going to stick with how I predicted the series, which is dubs in 6. So I'm going to go with the Warriors. But again, I think this is going to be an entertaining game. We're going to see guys step up, whether that's Clay or Draymond on the Warriors side. Draymond is a punk-ass bitch. I agree with that. But
watch your language, Bobby.
Yeah. Steve, I think Dre does have to step up, even if it's 8, 7, and 6.
Els disagrees with you. He says Boston wins Game 5. Go ahead.
Well, Els, that's fine. Maybe they do. I wouldn't be shocked if the Celtics did win this series. But I like the Warriors more. Steph Curry's been going off. Obviously, if the Warriors wind up winning this series, he's the Finals MVP. Celtics, you actually have between Brown and Tatum, really. Brown's been great.
How about this? In 1969, Jerry West won the NBA Finals MVP, losing in 7 games to the Boston Celtics. I think Steph Curry's played so good right now. If the series was stopped now, or stopped, and the Celtics even win the series, if he plays 7 games like he did the first 4, hell, I'd give him the damn MVP. Because he has kept this team in. As Sefton said, You can win a game here or there with one great player. But right now, they're 2-2 in this series against what I think is the better team directly because of Steph Curry.
Yeah, it's definitely fair to say. He's been amazing, and he needed that game 4 for his legacy. That was huge for him. We see this Warriors team obviously isn't what it used to be in terms of what you're going to expect out of Clay and Draymond. It makes sense. They're not in their mid-20s anymore. They're on the
Oh, man, my name says Joe Spillman. I didn't change that. Now I look like an idiot. Not because Joe's an idiot, by the way.
He's not? Well, you took his name, so I guess not. Maybe not.
Yeah, now he's not. There we go. Now it's better.
Totally lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
And we're off the rails.
All right, so Bobby's got Golden State in Game 5.
I think they win Game 5.
All right, Steve, what do you think?
I think the fact that they're playing at Golden State, although Boston's played well on the road the whole playoffs, they're a good road team in the playoffs, which is tough to do in the NBA semifinals and finals. They're doing it as good as any team I've seen recently play on the road. They're as much of a threat on the road as they are at home. I think this hinges on one thing, and that's if Curry can reproduce his output and his production. I don't think the Celtics, unless Stevens and the coach and his crew get together and brain test and figure out how to guard him and shut him down. If Steph stays hot, but man, it's got to be wearing on his body. I mean, he's not the young pup that he was 4, 5, 6 years ago. He's got to be getting tired. He's playing a lot of minutes. He's taking a lot of hits. He's working hard. So, but I'm going to give the nod here to Golden State at home. I just think that's a team that's done this before. They've been there, and they may lose in the overall in the end, but I don't think they lose this game because this is the most pivotal game of the series right now.
Sefton says he sees all the odd games going to Boston. I think I would too, but hell, have we ever seen an NBA Finals where like 5 of the 7 games have been won by a road team? Dan, I want to bring up Tony Kornhauser is his biological father. He didn't meet Tony until about a month ago, but you guys are really close now. Tony may be on if there's a Game 7, he said. But what do you think, Boston or Golden State, Tony Jr.?
See, this is tough because looking at all the stats and numbers and stuff, like this is one of those games where something's got to give. You know, Boston's 8-3 on the road, having outshot their opponents in those games, in their wins. Golden State is 10-1 at home with their one loss coming to Boston earlier in this series. So it's just like that up and down the road. But I'm going to go with Golden State as well. And the main thing on that front is their home court advantage. I think that's going to be huge. But I will say, I think with Golden State winning Game 5, I would go with the Boston Celtics winning Game 6 and us going to 7.
All right. Els says, I think he means nobody shutting Steph down. He could create a shot on his own. It just depends on if his shot is going down or not. I completely agree with him. I also think this. I came into this series thinking that Boston hands down would win this. Right now, what? What's wrong with Steve?
Isn't that what I said right after Bobby talked?
I don't remember what you said. I don't really care what you said. It was my turn to talk.
Way to listen and make me feel good about it.
Hey, way to interrupt
on the
me.
show and spitting out
I was
words.
listening, Steve.
Way to interrupt me.
Thank
way
you.
to
I think
interrupt
that's exactly what I said, Mike, already.
Well, thanks for
You're right.
stopping.
You're wrong.
And then Dan,
I guess I can't have the same opinion.
Dan just echoed what I said. So have a unique opinion.
My unique opinion is this: the Boston Celtics are going to win the game, so you got to be quiet. And you know what? Did you get the champion shirt at the Goodwill?
Did I what?
The champion shirt
What?
at the Goodwill. This is like we're doing a podcast in 1983, Steve.
Why? What's wrong with my champion shirt?
You got a champion shirt on. I didn't know people still wore that stuff.
Oh,
I know we bought my son a champion
shirt.
shirt one time, and he looked at me and he said, "What are we, poor?" I said, "No, son. It was just cheap, and we're not rich." There's a
Sorry,
difference.
Mike. It's almost 90 degrees here today. I've been in the pool with my dogs all day.
So you wear a
something on.
Damn,
So and this was laying out by my.
I didn't mean to
so
champion
I
shame
threw it on.
you. I'm sorry for champion shaming you.
You know what that championship goes with?
Oh, probably that class ring you got from
Yeah,
'81.
my champion's ring. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Uh huh. All right.
It's a good thing we don't have camera Bob.
I am going to take the Celtics, and I think the Celtics are going to win this in 6. But I think it is possible that Steph Curry basically puts his team on his back and wills them to win. Which brings us to this question. It's a question I saw on Twitter a few times today. We'll start off with Dan, because he's usually the dumbest, so he may give an answer we can argue with. Not the dumbest, but the least smart. The least smart. Steph Curry, is he the greatest point guard in NBA history, Dan?
I will say a very emphatic absolutely not. And I wouldn't even put him in the top 10 of top 10 players all time.
Now that I think is stupid.
He's not the best point guard. That's not even debatable. It's Magic Johnson, period.
Is it? I don't think it is. I think Magic Johnson is second. I think Isaiah Thomas is the greatest point guard that ever lived.
That's fine. I like Isaiah more than I like Curry too.
Well, yeah, because Isaiah is a better player. Isaiah was a better defender. He was tougher. He's a greater leader. And that's hard to say because Steph Curry's tough as hell and he's a great leader. But Isaiah Thomas was a stud. I don't know. Steve, have you ever heard of Isaiah Thomas?
I know Zeke. Is that the same guy?
I think it is, Steve.
Us friends of his get to call him Zeke.
Yeah.
You guys that are defenders call him Isaiah.
All right. Wait a second, Steve,
Zeke.
because you told me if you text him, you get his assistant.
No, not anymore. Now I'm getting in directly.
Okay. Well, get him on the damn show then.
Yeah.
He said he'd do the show if you did not come on and Dan and Bobby and I did it with Isaiah.
Well, do it then.
That's what he told me.
Do
then
it
he
then.
would come on.
But he's going to get stupid questions then because the three of you are like the Three Stooges.
Nah, he'll give stupid answers.
I'm just kidding.
Am I? Can I be Mo?
Who was the dumbest one, Bobby? Do you remember?
Oh, definitely Dan.
He didn't even give a Three Stooges. He just said Dan. All right. So you're saying, Dan, that you don't think Steph Curry is one of the top 10 point guards in NBA history?
No.
That's what you said.
No, top 10 players.
He said top 10 players.
Oh, because people even think that?
But that wasn't the question, Dan. The question was...
Yeah, top 10 point guards.
Top 10 point guards. Listen to the question, Dan.
100%.
I got to defend Mike on this one.
Where would you put him? Would you put him in the middle of the top 10, bottom of the top 10, or the top 3?
I'd probably put him 3 behind Magic and Isaiah because he's better than Stockton. He's better than pretty much anyone else. That's why he's third.
What about Big O? Where's Big O in this conversation? He's got to be in there. I'd put him ahead of Curry.
Yeah, I would do this. I would say this. I would go Magic or Isaiah. They're basically tied for one to me. I think Oscar Robertson's next. I think Jerry West is after that. But I think those are the top 4. I think Steph Curry falls somewhere around 5 or 6.
Right, and that argument was going on a lot when Chris Paul was still in the playoffs. Obviously, people thought, he's on his way to another finals. Maybe he wins it this year, enhances his legacy.
Dude, I'll tell you what. I think that the fact that people would even mention Chris Paul in the top 10 point guards of all time just shows how stupid they are.
Nah, he's in there.
No,
he's not top 5, though.
Dude, you've got to do something when shit matters, and he doesn't.
Hey, that's been the wrap on his career, but he's still
That's not a wrap. That is the...
He's made the finals already.
Wait, but you can't give me he's top 10 of all time because he made a finals once in his 20 years. Especially when he is the one that usually shits the bed for his team and they don't win.
Okay, so Jason Kidd made what, 2, 3?
I don't remember mentioning Jason Kidd.
Well, he's in that top 10. You have
No, he's
Stockton.
not. No, he's in your top 10. I think
Nah,
this.
hold on,
I think
hold
Jason Kidd was a great player, but I will take.
Oh,
I will
top
take.
10 point guards,
Yeah,
right?
I'll take Steve Nash and John Stockton over him in a heartbeat over Chris Paul.
No.
And I'll tell you this also. Walt Clyde Frazier should probably be top 6 also.
Just wrote his name down, Mike.
absolutely has a case. He's definitely in the top 10.
Well, you know what Walt Frazier also has? Game 7, 1970 NBA Finals. All of the glory went to Willis Reed, who came in, played a few minutes, took 2 shots. But look at the stats that Walt Clyde Frazier had in that Game 7. It was one of the greatest Game 7s anybody has ever played in NBA history.
Hey, I don't disagree with that. I'm a Knicks fan.
Well, then how could you say that? I mean, to say Chris Paul is better than Walt Frazier to me is absolutely nuts.
Wait, hold on, Mike. Quick question: are you saying you're not giving Chris Love Paul primarily because he doesn't have a chip? And he
No,
doesn't-
I'm giving it to him because when shit gets tough, he loses.
Hey,
I watched Isaiah Thomas, put his team on his back and take him to the promised land. I've seen Steph Curry. Looks like he might do that. Jerry West. I mean, does anybody here take Chris Paul over Jerry West?
No, I'd still put Jerry West ahead of him. I have Chris Paul in that 6-10 range. But depending on what he still does with his career, he's still playing at a high level. He's been a choker, so you're probably right. He probably won't wind up vaulting up that leaderboard, but I think he's absolutely
he's not even the greatest Suns point guard.
Look at the
of all time.
numbers. No, he's not one of the greatest Suns. Well, not right now, no. But
No, he's not, and he never will be. Steve Nash was better. You got guys like Bob Cousy, but I really don't think Bob Cousy was that great. I think this. I would take Gary Payton. That dude was tough as shit. And his NBA rank all time is 4th in steals, 10th in assists, 35th in scoring.
I mean, Chris Paul is going to be top 5 among point guards in every category.
No, he's not. He's not. I mean, that's in your world. In a lot of people's world, Dan Marino is one of the 5 greatest quarterbacks that ever lived, but he just wasn't.
Well, they didn't win. That's the common theme I'm hearing with both of them.
No, because I've got John Stockton didn't win. Steve Nash didn't win. I'll tell you another one who I think is a lot better than him is Nate Tiny Archibald.
Now we're
See,
stretching.
Wait, we're stretching.
Okay, I had his name. They're not old enough, Mike. They're not old enough.
We're
I had his
stretching
name
with
written
Tiny
down, too.
Archibald? Give me a break.
Archibald, if you didn't see Archibald play, you have no idea how good that kid was. He was magic.
Hey.
He was a magician.
We can watch all the highlights we want and talk about Tiny Archibald. I'm not saying he wasn't a great player, but to think that
Actually,
Chris
watching
Paul-
highlights doesn't tell you anything. But
Yeah.
if you watch highlights, Chris Paul looks like one of the 5 best. I'm just telling you this. If I put it like this, if I've got to play Game 7, Bobby, you got to play a Game 7 and you're the coach, do you want Chris Paul or do you want Walt Frazier?
Shit, I'll take Walt Frazier. That's
Then
fine.
you just answered your own question.
Not
Walt
just the
Frazier's better.
playoff series that we're talking about. We got to talk about a guy's whole career and their regular season.
Well,
stats.
let's talk about Walt Frazier's career. I mean, this is the thing. Right now, you are using a smaller, lighter ball to shoot. The NBA three-point line now is what, like 23 feet, 23.9?
Yeah, it's
I don't know. Did they even have the 3-point line?
No,
when
that's
Live
kind of
was
my
playing?
point. Walt
Didn't even have
Frazier
it.
didn't have a three-point line.
Yeah,
Walt
neither did
Frazier played on one of the greatest NBA teams of all time, and the reason they were one of the greatest teams was because he was on it.
Bradley,
So-
DeBuscher.
All I know is this. It's just like all these people always say, well, Dan Marino's the greatest quarterback I ever saw. Well, we're going to go play a Super Bowl. Do you want Joe Montana or Dan Marino? Every one of them says Joe Montana. Well, then how the hell can you rate Dan Marino as being better? I mean, you just said that he was better than Walt Frazier, but I ask you, you got to play Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Who you playing with, Walt Frazier or Chris Paul? To me, all-time great comes down to that.
Hey, there's some guys that have a reputation as being a clutch player and others that don't.
That is the only reputation that matters. You can't be an all-time great player if you're not a clutch player.
So then guys like Robert Horry are better than a lot of players that didn't win championships? That doesn't make any sense.
Really? Because Robert Robert Horry was the one that won these team championships? Robert Horry was a role player on every team he played on.
Clutch as
We're
fuck.
talking about being the man. He's clutch as hell, yeah. But that's not the same thing. I'll still take Reggie Miller to take the last shot over Robert Horry. Reggie Miller didn't win a
Reggie
championship.
didn't win anything either. Yeah, we know that.
You know
But
what?
You all Frazier, that's fine.
this
I'll
is the-
take Chris Paul, though.
This is the thing. Reggie Miller in that Game 7 is going to hit that shot also. Reggie Miller was never on a team that was the best team in the NBA. Chris Paul was on a team this year that had, correct me if I'm wrong, the best record in the NBA. And he got beat in the conference semifinals, and I'm pretty sure he didn't play that well in the deciding game.
And Chris Paul's had tons of failures. I don't dispute that. But he still made it deep in plenty of playoff runs.
I know.
He
Has great numbers. Are the biggest liars in the world. Stats are complete and utter bullshit. I don't care what your stats are. If you look at stats, Joe Montana was a great quarterback, but he's not all-time great. But what made him all-time great was the drive in 81 against the 49ers, the drive against the Bengals in Super Bowl 23. I mean, he had multiple drives where he won games. A guy like Dan Marino had multiple games where he was playing at home as the favorite in AFC Championship and lost. You know, Peyton Manning, if you watch the highlights, was better than Tom Brady. But there's nobody outside of somebody that's a complete, just hates Tom Brady for no reason, is going to say, I want Peyton Manning over Tom Brady if we're playing a Super Bowl. I mean, where did Chris Paul go to college, Bobby?
Wake Forest.
What did he win?
Nada.
Okay. Peyton Manning at Tennessee. What did he win?
Nada. They had T. Martin.
But T. Martin won the year after he left.
Yeah.
So, and that's not to rip on Peyton Manning. He's a great player. But to me, there is a difference. What makes you legendary, what makes Jordan, Bird, Magic legendary, is you can go back and you can pick out multiple NBA Finals games where they were as good as anybody that ever lived on the biggest stage. Walt Frazier did that also. You know, Steph Curry's doing that right now. Isaiah Thomas did that. You know? I mean, hell, John Stockton would be higher in this conversation if Karl Malone could shoot free throws under pressure.
Not turn the ball over.
Yeah. But, I mean, Karl Malone was a guy that was an 80% free throw shooter that in one final shot like 50%. In two of those games, they lost by like a point or two. So, Steve.
Fair arguments. I'm not saying Chris Paul's a top 3, but he belongs on that top 10. That's my main point there.
Well, then you're wrong, but that's all right. Steve, what do you think? Does Chris Paul belong in the top 10 or not?
Not in my top 10, but that's my top 10. So.
And here's another one. I would also take Tony Parker over him. So I agree with Els there. I would probably have Tony Parker in the 6 to 10 range.
Chris Paul's a better player. You got lucky.
I know. In the finals, who was the better player?
Tony Parker made it a ton of times.
No shit. And he was a big reason why they made it. Because you know what? You could have the greatest big man in the world, but if you don't have somebody to get him the ball, it usually don't work out that well.
No, we can't do that to we can't do that. Putting Tony Parker in the same conversation with Chris Paul is that's just awful. Tony Parker was a great player. Hold on. You were talking about, was so-and-so the best player on the team? Tony Parker wasn't the best player on his team. And that whole team, they all had their own clutch moments. You know, Manu Ginobili had his clutch moments in the playoffs.
Including Tony
Duncan
Parker.
had his clutch moments and was the best player on that team. Don't do that don't disrespect CP3. That man.
Come on. CP3 is a bitch. You have to be able to step up in big situations.
He's a dog. He's one of the dogs in the NBA.
He is a dog. He is a dog because a dog is a bitch, right? And that's what he plays like in the finals. Is he plays like a bitch? Well, he only got there once.
He is what Draymond Green wishes he could be. Because Draymond thinks, he's some big dog on the court. He's not quite. Chris Paul is that.
And I'll give you another one that played on a really bad team that nobody brings up is Dave Bing, who you guys have probably never even heard of.
Heard of him, but no, I didn't.
Dave Bing was a guy that played in the 70s that could have played today. I mean, he had the most explosive burst move, him and Nicky Van Exel, that I've ever seen. And he played on some bad teams. He averaged over 20 points. He carried those teams, actually carried the teams to the playoffs multiple times. And basically it was him and Bob Lanier. But Dave Bing's a guy that never gets. Yeah, and I don't think Tony Parker's better than CP3. I'm just screwing with you. But I don't think Chris Paul is that great. I still think you got to get it done. When you're the number 1 seed and you're the best player on the team and that team fails, that's on you.
That's fair.
And it's a fair statement. But
That's definitely fair.
We're gonna have
And you know what?
differences in rankings.
Since we're talking so much about clutch and clutch play and stuff like that, to bring it back to the finals that we are currently in, Boston was the second worst team in the NBA in clutch situations.
That's
And
because
clutch
Jason
situations-
Tatum disappears every other game.
That's what I'm talking about right there. They're the second worst team behind.
But I will give him this, Dan.
Ahead of only
Okay,
the
good.
Knicks. Okay, Ahead of
Gentlemen,
only-
I will be right back.
You got to
they're-
pee or poop, Steve?
I got to pee like a racehorse.
Well, we're getting ready to wrap it up anyways. What are you guys doing in the NASCAR show?
Tonight at 10 o'clock, I believe.
Oh, it's
Eastern
10?
time.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we were
So I don't get to pick my best point guards.
Yeah, go ahead. I already asked you and you didn't answer. You just said
You,
Zeke.
you never asked me that.
You said,
That's-
wait a second, Dan.
You
Did I
asked
not
me-
bring that up to him? And then he said Zeke. You don't remember
No.
that?
No.
Bobby, you
asked
remember me
if
saying
was-
Zeke, don't
was
you?
Good.
I think so. I'm
Every-
just curious.
all
what
right.
Zeke is
See,
like. need to hear
I
the
like Bobby. Hey, Horace Countryman Holmes from Jamaica says, greetings from I Am Shore Sports in Jamaica. How you doing, Countryman? All right, Steve, give us your top 5.
I don't know if I can pick a top 5. I
Well,
can tell
fuck, you just asked.
I did not. Well,
You said you didn't give me my chance. I just gave you
I'm
a
gonna
bigger
tell you,
chance than I
I'm
gave
going to tell you,
you.
in my opinion, having played with a couple of these guys, one with and one against, what to me makes a great point guard in the NBA or in college basketball or at that level is a player who can develop statistics or produce the stats in the game, whatever he needs to do, and elevate everybody else on his team
Yes.
and provide leadership on that team
Bobby,
all at
that's
one
not
time.
Chris Paul.
That's what makes one a truly great point guard. It's the fact,
Agreed.
can you do all of those? Can you lead? Can you elevate? Can you produce? And to me, there's only 2 of those that I know that really, in my time of really understanding basketball, and that would be Magic and Isaiah. Those 2 did. Now, there are those
I would
that
throw
did that.
Oscar in there.
Oscar, I got Oscar as number 3.
Yeah.
I was getting ready to say Oscar was right there, but to me, Oscar is a shoe size below those 2 guys. That's all.
I think so too.
Just one. Just a shoe size. I mean, I'm talking that much below.
Well, how about this? I don't know.
Then he's the crapshoot. Then it'd be Curry.
No, I think
Curry,
it's
Curry's
no.
a great producer.
Jerry
of
West.
points.
Jerry West.
Jerry West. Yeah, Jerry West was a great scorer and a great leader. But did he elevate everybody else on his team? Or
I think he
just
did.
score a
The
lot?
problem was the Celtics were just better.
Yeah, and certainly Curry to me is the greatest. Maybe not the greatest. I still don't think so, but he has his strength in making him in that category of the top 10 is his ability to produce points and
Hey.
win games through just outscoring people himself.
Steph's proving
That's
it right
not what
now.
Isaiah
Steve.
did. Huh?
Steph is proving it right now. And
Yeah,
I mean,
he is.
I think
he
this.
freed him there by outscoring everybody. He's not necessarily. He can't elevate Damon Green. You know, he's not elevating him to play better. He's not. And I don't see Poole or Wiggins. They're coming up, but so slowly it may cost them if they don't come up faster.
Yeah, but how about this, Steve? I mean, the fact that he could take over the game should account for something, especially if he wins
Right.
an NBA
It
Finals
accounts for him
tournament.
being in the top 10, Mike. It does.
No,
And
it
maybe-
accounts for him
yeah.
maybe being number 1 if he can do that.
I don't know about that because he doesn't provide the leadership. Doesn't elevate.
What?
He doesn't lead.
That is
he doesn't
fucking
elevate.
nuts. Steph Curry doesn't lead and
Not
elevate.
at the
He's won
level
multiple
that the other guys
championships.
did. Okay, just my
Damn,
opinion.
Steve. I
And
know. but
and I don't know what goes on in practice with the Golden State Warriors, but there was many times in practice where I saw Isaiah get up in somebody's face and damn near bitch slap him.
and
if
I
they
would
weren't
guarantee you
producing
that
enough
Steph
in
Curry
practice.
does that too.
Probably can't
I
get away
find
with it
it
in the
hard
NBA as much as you can in college. But yeah, I hope that he does. And Magic, you talk about Magic. Magic and Isaiah probably each only average, 17, 18 points a game for their career.
Magic may not even average that. Isaiah,
Yeah.
I would think, was
But
probably in the 20s.
we saw Magic come into a game when Kareem went down and dropped 42 playing in the post position.
No, he didn't.
I mean, yeah, he did.
Go watch the game. He still brought the ball up the court. He posted up early in the game, and then he got away from it, and they just ran.
Yeah, they just played without a post
let's
player,
face it, the Philadelphia 76ers had Daryl Dawkins at center, so it's not
nonetheless,
difficult.
what leaders do is they do whatever it takes, whatever they have to win. When they needed him, when Kareem went down, Magic came in and put up 42 points, and probably, that was a championship. No, it wasn't a championship game, I don't believe. But and then he probably
it was
went
game
back to
6. It was a championship game.
Okay, but then he went back to 16, 17 points a game, if even that. So that's what makes it a great leader.
Yeah, but this is the thing. This is the thing, though. Remember this. When he got to the Lakers were in the Western Conference Final and lost to the Sonics the year before. It's not like the cupboard was bare. He did have actually, the best clutch player on that team was James Worthy.
I played against him, too. I shut him down.
Sure you did, Steve.
Bitch.
You didn't shut him down, Steve.
I did. He didn't hurt us at all in the championship game.
Down?
I started guarding him.
Ah, God. Steve, you played 14 minutes.
Right. And he didn't score in those 14 minutes.
Damn right, Steve. Let him know.
That's right.
Oh, shit.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I think that was probably with IU and the help defense. It may have been the entire team.
We never played help defense. We played man-to-man.
Right,
yeah,
Steve, let him
with
know.
a lot of switching and help.
You shut him down,
I
Steve.
watched the game, Steve.
Were you out of diapers when that game was played?
Yeah, I was like 12 or 13 years old.
Oh, wow. Way to go. Taking care of the acne?
I never really had any acne. My complexion was always beautiful. But
I'm not
all right, guys.
I promise myself I'm not going there anymore.
Going where?
Good.
To acne?
I'm not going there anymore. No, move on.
Where are you going? All right, we're going to go ahead. We got to wrap the show up because Steve is over 60 years old, which means he has to piss every hour on the hour. So we're getting to the point where he's got to go. And see, I'm like
20 minutes right now.
I'm like 53, so that means I've got to piss every hour and 15 minutes. So it's coming up on my time too. You guys want to do this Tuesday night to recap Game 5 and preview Game 6?
Definitely.
All right. I want to remind you, find the best place to bet for you. Betting.net offers expert and user reviews for every online sportsbook casino in your state. Now, what did you want when you so rudely interrupted me,
I said, I talked to Wendy. She said, you need to mow the grass Tuesday night. So you want us to get somebody else to join us?
If you want to, but the show won't be worth a shit and nobody will watch. But
How about Bobby Sheridan? Let's get Bobby Sheridan.
Yeah, get that fucker.
We don't want two Bobbies. One Bobby is awful.
All right, well, we'll get Joe. We'll get Joe on to do it.
Yeah, you might as well get Joe. That way, well, it'll just be Bobby and 3 ugly dudes instead of me, Bobby, and 2 ugly dudes.
Rude.
Make sure you check out the link in the description below on the YouTube video to check out Caesars Sportsbook, our recommended sports betting site for Game 6 of the NBA, or Game 5 of the NBA Finals. We will be back Tuesday night at 8 o'clock to preview Game 6 and recap Game 5. But for now, guys, make sure you go to the Facebook page, The Grueling Truth, like it there, and make sure you check us out on YouTube. But for now, for Steve Risley, Bobby Hunt, Dan Kornhauser, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been watching and listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.